I really have been thinking about this a lot recently. Because I've been like, I don't know if I'm like regressing or some shit, bro, but I'm just like always listening. Like lately, I'm always listening to like older music and shit. Like, oh man, from like the late 2010s, around there. Like, oh man. Like, even watching the movies and just like thinking about like life back then, I've been like, ugh, I don't know. Like, the air was different, bro. It was like, it was just different, man. I don't know if it was just better or I don't know. Like 2014, bro, 2013, 2012. Ugh, man. But let's get into it. Why did the 2010s look like that? Dude, Happy Wheels,
Flash games,
Tobuscus.
MLG, Trollface, and swag. The internet was a very different place in the 2010s. Memes used to look
Really
like
was.
this, and YouTube was filled with content you couldn't make today. Regardless of whether you fell in love with
Who remembers that, bro? Talk about the fall off of a century, bro. Remember you used to just say the N-word? You used to actually just blatantly say the N-word, like, on video. Nothing would happen. Him, H3. Like, it was just a different time. Oh my gosh.
Vaporwave, or spent way too long watching
Not saying it was
Star
right,
memes,
but
you
it
might
was a
be wondering
different
where all
time,
of
that's
this
for sure.
went, and what it even was. So, as things get stranger and stranger, we'll dig into the 2010s to try and find out why.
Oh, man. Remember Fine Bros watching the React videos? Oh my gosh, dude. What a time, man. Was that Roy Purdy right there? That's Russell. I don't know who that is. Bro, we was just playing that.
It's 2024 and everything has a name, including this visual style from the early 10s. Known as Internet Awesome Source, it was most prevalent from 2008 to 2016.
Oh my gosh.
There's a suspicious correlation between the popularity of the word epic and the use of images
Yup.
like these. Common elements were
Totally
rainbows,
epic.
cats, dinosaurs, unicorns, and lasers. People were obsessed with lasers. Outside of memes
Yup.
and GIFs, this aesthetic could be seen all over the internet. The intro of Uncle Grandpa is a good example, showing him riding a tiger propelled by rainbows. It was also used in games, with Robot Unicorn Attack from 2010 exemplifying the style. Other instances can be found in PewDiePie's Tuber Simulator, in minigames like
I remember this shit.
Puzzle and
Oh my
Techno
gosh.
Kitten Adventure. If you were browsing YouTube in 2011, you might have even seen Le Internet Medley, which boasted over 40 memes in one song.
Yep.
With the flying yarn cats and rainbow puke, there isn't much more you could ask for. But
Rainbow
anyway,
puke,
why was
oh
this
my
kind
gosh.
of humor and style so popular? While a lot of these were ironic, rainbows and unicorns formed the comedic basis of too many memes to count. Nyan Cat was close to the top of the most viewed videos in 2011,
Yep.
making it a cultural phenomenon.
Look at the videos on here. Rebecca Black Friday. Oh my gosh, dude.
This, and the popularity of things like shooting stars, influenced the fascination with combining explosions and lasers to make the most epic image possible. To truly appreciate this, you've got to understand that at the time,
What a
random
time.
equaled funny.
Smosh.
Coupling a mythical, peaceful creature like a unicorn with destruction and chaos didn't only look cool, it was unexpected and
Bro, how do we feel about the whole random equals funny? Is that like, that's not really, I mean, it kind of is a thing a little bit, but oh my gosh, that was like people's whole personalities back then.
therefore humorous. This and the popularity of My Little Pony are big reasons videos like
brother.
pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows have tens of millions of views. If we look at some other trends from around 2011,
Christian?
this begins to make a bit
Oh.
more sense. With social media on the rise, it was easier to make and share
That's how
clips to a
YouTube used to
wider range of
look,
people.
man.
The idea of trolling was also
Dude,
gaining
oh my
traction,
gosh.
meaning that humor often leaned into the absurd and confusing.
Bro. Remember Minnesota Burns and shit like that? Back with the Xbox trolling? Oh my gosh.
Naturally, Awesome Source perfectly slots into this landscape, with its use of random combinations and niche internet memes.
Or Mr. Technical Difficult? Oh my gosh, bro. MLG, baby!
If you never had XX_ as part of your username, you were doing something wrong.
That used to
The
be my
brainrot of
username.
today pales in comparison to the content juggernaut that was MLG. You might have watched MLG Peppa Pig, Game of Thrones, or any number of trickshot edits. If it was really
Yep.
bad, maybe you even got caught downloading green screen packs
Yep.
and piecing together your own. Some of the more iconic visuals were Snoop Dogg, random quickscopes, Cool Ranch Doritos, and COD hit markers. Pyrocynical was a major perpetrator, being the man behind
What a good
MLG
time.
Teletubbies and furry inflation art. I find it crazy to look back and see the views on some of these videos. Many are well above
good
10
time,
million,
man.
which speaks to the absolute chokehold they had on the internet. Another recurring detail was Illuminati confirmed, which would often involve a text-to-speech voice linking random things to the all-seeing eye. With that and enough
Illuminati
explosions
confirmed.
and air horns, you could turn any no-scope into a work of art. Outside of the visuals, they featured numerous sound effects and songs that are probably imprinted deep within your
Memulous,
temporal
oh my
lobe. If
gosh.
you weren't humming it already, My Hope Will Never Die or Holdin' On was the most iconic, with the X-Files theme also playing a major role. The horrific audio of successful trickshot reactions was featured a lot too.
Oh
if you're a
my
real one,
gosh.
comment with the rest of this phrase.
A triple.
These kinds of edits can be traced back to as early as
What a good time.
2011, specifically a World of Warcraft video made by Jamal. With the green screen overlay of a quickscope, it provides the first known
I've never
example
seen
of an
this.
MLG-style montage. The reason such videos rose to prominence is in the name, Major League Gaming. Professional esports teams would release highlight reels that went on to
I
inspire
don't think I've
fans to
seen that
begin
one.
making their own. With many of these simply being replays recorded by an iPhone, they were usually much worse in quality and far more amusing. As the internet did its thing, these became more and more deranged,
Look at that, Obey. Whatever happened to them?
and eventually morphed into the irony-laden masterpieces that plagued the 2010s. Unlike the memes of today, MLG lasted a few years before losing
SVG.
traction, disappearing, for the most part, in 2017. Even though the last decade was only a few years ago, things have changed
PewDiePie.
a lot online. Here on YouTube, this is especially apparent. A perfect case study for this is the rise and fall of Let's Plays. Let's Plays are the reason many of your favourite YouTubers are your favourite YouTubers.
I loved Let's Plays, man. Back in the day. Oh my gosh.
Broadly, this style of video involved commentary over clips of a video game that focused on the player's experience of it rather than a guide or a walkthrough. The general format is credited to Michael Sawyer, or Slowbeef, whose 2007 playthrough of The Immortals is widely considered to be the first modern Let's Play. As YouTube began to take off, this style of video did
Now, what kind of Let's Players are left? The Rad Brad? Hollow? I think T Martin does some on his second channel. Other than that, there's not many Let's Players left.
as
That
well.
I can think of.
People like PewDiePie would emerge with wildly successful series like his horror playthroughs. The draw here wasn't just the game, it was his reactions and experience of it. By naming enemies and objects like Stefano, he built up his own lore inside these videos that kept people coming back regardless of the game he was playing. Markiplier found similar success with his Five Nights at Freddy's Let's Plays,
Yep.
the first of which was uploaded in August of 2014 and currently sits at over 100 million views. Today,
Crazy.
however, Let's Plays are seemingly a thing of the past, at least as a method of blowing up.
Yep.
Arguably, this is mostly due to the oversaturation of gaming content on the site. Making a video titled Let's Play XYZ Episode 3 isn't as likely to take off anymore in a sea of very similar videos. The current landscape does, however, favour challenge videos with an interesting premise, like the Fallout series by It's Jarbo. Another reason Let's Plays have disappeared is that they haven't. They've just moved. Instead of watching a YouTube video, much of the audience for Let's Plays has shifted over to streaming.
Yep, Twitch, baby.
Here
Shout
they can
out.
tune in whenever they want and watch a content creator they like play the game for much longer periods of time. Moving on, if you ever watched the Cake trilogy by Filthy Frank, iDubbbz and Max
What a goated trilogy, baby. Oh my gosh, dude, what an era.
Mofo, you likely remember when shock humor reigned supreme. By around 2016, this had come to a peak, with gaming content becoming slightly less popular. In an
I love
interview with
this.
Trash Taste, PewDiePie refers to this as the Filthy Frank era, a time when
Yep.
even he adapted to the change by making edgier content with a raspier voice.
Hey guys, can I take your boyfriend for a ride?
Can if you want.
He's in.
This was partially the byproduct of ambiguity surrounding YouTube's content policies. There wasn't as clear of a line between unacceptable and acceptable practices.
Yeah, now you
People
can't
were
do shit.
maintaining high viewerships and growing exponentially while saying and doing things that would be pulled from the site today. For example, the Cake trilogy was retroactively removed following a more recent reaction
Really?
from PewDiePie. This likely reminded YouTube that they still existed and didn't align with the updated content guidelines. In 2017, we saw the beginning of this
That's a bit ridiculous, man. Really?
with the Adpocalypse. I remember at the time this felt like a huge deal.
Who caused this shit to happen? Didn't PewDiePie cause this shit to happen? I'm pretty sure he did with the whole bridge thing. From what I remember, I think he was the one that kind of catalyst, like, started it all. From what I think. I don't know 100%, but...
With many large channels being legitimately concerned about their income. The term describes a mass withdrawal of advertisers from YouTube following several large-scale controversies. Many were no longer comfortable showing ads on content that wasn't family-friendly, resulting in some channels receiving ads while others didn't. For creators like Filthy Frank, this made it all but impossible to make money from their videos. This meant that there was less incentive to make edgy, humorous content, and it quickly declined in popularity.
Such bullshit, man.
These YouTubers adapted and continue to thrive on YouTube today. Others, like Frank, haven't been seen since 2017. I have, however, found an artist called Joji who
about to say, that motherfucker is probably making way more money than he ever did before.
Sounds strangely similar to Pink Guy.
Dank memes,
it's hard
baby.
to categorize something as unpredictable as memes, let alone
Smash Mouth.
their use
Oh my
through an
gosh.
entire decade, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Remember the Smash Mouth era, bro?
There's been many attempts to organize them into specific eras. Today, we'll be focusing on 3 that span the 2010s. Rage,
Dank, baby. This was it right here. Like, yeah, the Rage shit was good, but the Dank era, bro? Dank memes. Dank memes. Oh.
and surreal. Starting with Rage, this term is derived from Rage comics, which began in 2008 on sites like 4chan. These would typically be short, with 4 panels based around humorous or irritating real-life experiences. The common thread was a collection of so-called Rage faces made in MS Paint. You'll recognize Troll Face, Rage Guy, Why You Know Guy, and Serial Guy. This became more widespread with the inception of r/f in 2009. Funnily enough, this is still active, although not nearly as prolific. Top and bottom text memes
it's a little
pretty big at
cringe
this
now,
time
but
as well.
you know.
Slapped on top of images like Bad Luck Brian, Overly Attached Girlfriend, and Boromir. These all followed simple formulas that anyone could relate to and make themselves. All it required was an internet connection, the impact font, and a dream. As 2013 rolled around, we can identify a shift into the dank meme era. Here, memes became considerably more abstract, and less centered.
I mean, there's still like dank memes floating around, alright? They're still floating around out there, okay?
Around understandable and repetitive
I didn't give
tropes
up
like
on 'em.
these. This period encapsulates the peak of MLG, the use of these classes, and Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. Still, these were far from the most iconic. 9+10, Harambe,
Dude.
Vape Nation,
Vape
We Are
Nation,
Number One,
baby.
and Do You Know the Way all emerged in a similar time frame. Instagram meme accounts started to become
Do you know the way?
all as part of a multi-platform ecosystem that
Remember fucking Vapor Nord, bro?
produced, propelled, and modified memes throughout their life cycle. A big reason some of these were so bizarre and nonsensical was that Gen Z was growing up and becoming increasingly active on social media. By using themes and references that only they could understand, they distanced themselves from older
It's a
generations.
whole language, it really is.
This is also why some of them were quite edgy, with all of it playing a role in forming their own distinct online identity. You can see this reflected in the creators who were popular among the demographic. As I mentioned before, if you weren't watching Let's Plays, you might have tuned into Max Mofo, iDubbbz, or Filthy Frank.
All
who had
three.
Collaborations that
All
spawned
three,
some
baby.
Of the most shared memes and phrases. A perfect example of this is the green screen of It's Time to Stop, which appeared in hundreds of edits on multiple platforms. Next up is the surreal era. that
This
kicked
is
off
like
in
the
late
deep fried
2010s.
shit, you know what I'm saying?
This was home to deep fried memes,
Yup.
Crab Rave, and of course, the release of
Bro, I'm really just calling it out, bro. I'm a psychic.
Fortnite. To be honest, things started to take a turn for the worse here. Deep fried
Yep.
memes were made by running an image through a filter over and over, until it became warped and barely legible. This would be combined with an equally ridiculous piece of text, if any at all. Surreal memes, on the other hand, often featured this guy. He was associated with things like the layers of irony and the term angery, popping up everywhere online. Mr. Orange, or Orang, is another example. Consistent with its name, this humor operated on a similar premise to much older memes. To be random and confusing was to be funny. Not many of these made sense, and it was often that and their absurdity that made them entertaining.
Funny thing is, because they'd be so stupid, but like, you just be looking at it and you just like laugh a little and you're like, fuck, it got me.
Happy Wheels, Bloons Tower Defense, and The Impossible Quiz have one thing in common. they are all Flash games. The mid-2000s and the early 2010s are considered the golden age for this kind of gaming. Most of my exposure to these titles was on Cool Maths games, where I'd spend hours playing Fireboy and Water Girl and Papa's Diarrhea. I distinctly remember...
Bro, which one did you play, though? Did you play Pizzeria, Burgeria, Ice Creameria, or whatever it was? I played the ice cream one, not gonna lie. Or Pancakeria? Dude. I think I definitely played the ice cream one the most. 100%. Although I did like the burger one.
I remember spamming the sauce until I had a stack about 3 feet tall, selling it for $0 and then quitting the game. Turning back time even further, Flash first released in 1996. People eventually figured out that it was possible to make games on it, with many of them starting to pop up in the early 2000s. The website Newgrounds emerged at a similar time, and soon became a massive platform for user-generated Flash games. This website made it possible for almost anyone to produce, share, and play others' work online, with the only requirement being a clickable link. Of course, these games weren't limited to Newgrounds, as they could be embedded and accessed through any other website, like Cool Maths games. This meant that if your game wasn't received well in one place, there was always a chance it could take off in another. As a result, it's no surprise that some of these games became massive. Happy Wheels was, and still is, huge. YouTubers like PewDiePie and Markiplier did Let's Plays.
Are people still playing Happy Wheels? There's no way it's still huge. I doubt that.
That received millions of views, with Jacksepticeye uploading as recently as April 2024. By now, you've likely heard that Flash is no longer a thing, but you might be surprised to learn that the end of Flash games was heralded by Steve Jobs way back in 2010. In his famous Thoughts on Flash letter, he criticized Adobe for Flash's security issues, poor performance, and the fact that it was a closed system. This meant that Apple would have less control over the software.
Yeah, you can't monetize it.
Bug fixes, being one of the main reasons they refused to support it on iOS. As the years passed and things like HTML5 rose to prominence and offered more security, Flash sped towards the inevitable. Soon enough, Adobe announced its end of life in 2017, and Flash took its last breath in 2020. Thankfully, many of these games were preserved, and it's entirely possible to still play them. This isn't to say, however, that thousands weren't lost to time.
Vaporwave.
If you recognize this image, you most likely remember Vaporwave. This picture is the cover of Floral Shop, an album made by the artist Vectroid. The most iconic song from the selection was Lisa Frank 420. This was used everywhere, in memes, edits, and often as part of YouTube outros. Of course, Vaporwave was much more than just a subgenre of music. It was also a distinct
and fascinating
aesthetic that began on the internet. Common features included retro 3D graphics, pink and purple pastels, dolphins, and foliage. After its inception in the early years of the decade, Vaporwave began to rapidly spread.
Bro, this Vaporwave shit reminds me of, like, I don't know why, it kind of reminds me of the CSGO running videos, like the commentary videos and shit.
Over numerous platforms. Whether you found it on commentary channels or songs on Bandcamp, it quickly became...
There's no fucking... Dude, this motherfucker's reading my mind, bro!
...became undeniably huge, peaking at around 2015. There was even an entire game called Mall Quest made in this style. Copies of this can still be found online, although the original version was taken down. It was described as a procedurally generated shopping sim, and it actually looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I never played this
Returning
shit.
to design, you might notice that, for an aesthetic born in the 2010s, it feels a bit out of place.
80s, baby.
That's because most of the imagery you're seeing here was heavily inspired by the 80s and 90s. This transcended architecture, with one of the most influential artifacts being a game. Echo the Dolphin, for the Sega Genesis, informed music and aesthetics alike, largely responsible for the heavy use of dolphins in design. Looking at Floral Shop, one of the songs is even named after this title. If you were big on Vaporwave in the 2010s, there's a good chance you recall some of its numerous subgenres. I've mentioned this before, but one of my personal favorites is Mallsoft. Being quite liminal, this would pair shops and plazas with subtle edits to bring out their colour. Another recognisable style is synthwave. While sharing similar elements to Vaporwave, it's actually...
Bro, I feel like so many people had this fucking background on, like, Wallpaper Engine, dude. Oh my
an entirely separate aesthetic. Where it celebrates the neon colours and media from the 80s, Vaporwave presents a more satirical and at times political reflection of the 80s and 90s. Synthwave is responsible for all of the backgrounds you had that looked like this. Endless grids, cityscapes, and cars. I don't remember how many times I put on one of these videos, but it was definitely more than once.
Yep.
Anyway, unlike other aesthetics in this video, Vaporwave and synthwave are still active in smaller online communities. While they are far from their previous position in the mainstream, you can still find new releases if you know where to look.
Swag, bro. Oh my gosh. We're talking... Dude, oh my gosh. The sagging of the pants, bro. Oh, man. Overly baggy clothes, you know what I'm saying? Although that was a little before swag, but it was like... What a time. What a time. I love booby bracelets. Who remembers that? Silly
You either
band?
have it
No.
or you don't, but if you're subscribed,
Flat
you
brim
definitely
cats.
do. Swag, in this context, described a style of fashion that was very popular in the
Yep.
early 2010s. While the word itself had been around for years before, pieces like You're a Jerk by the New Boys jump-started
Yep.
this new manifestation, which continued for a couple years in the form of music and clothing. To be swagged out involved flat brim caps with the brim intact, racks spent on clothes and more hats, and your front and back
Yankee no brim.
labelled with Obey draped in knickknacks. These caps were often brought down to cover your eyes in photos, which would then be put through the first filter available on Instagram or Tumblr.
Bro, the shirts that'd be like, you mad, bro? Oh my gosh. The fuck it. Oh. Dude, I hate... Oh my gosh, what a
People
time.
don't really use these anymore when posting, but good lord were they popular back then.
Oh,
Scroll
yeah.
down far enough through anyone's account, without liking anything of course, and you'll find a world of yellow, grainy filters and vignettes. Shutter shades
Oh,
were
yeah.
also pretty big at the time, with people like Kanye frequently wearing them. Anyway,
I had
swag
green
was
ones.
boosted along by artists like Lil B, who posted the song I Own Swag in 2012. The term, then, was rapidly
New
becoming
Boys.
widespread, in tandem with the production of
Let's look... Hold up. Let's look at this shit. Let's look at this shit. Dude, the Cookie Monster hat. No. If a girl was wearing Cookie Monster pajamas, run. Just fucking run. Use Beats as a necklace. I remember when I got my first pair of Beats for Christmas, bro. I was so happy. Ball crush and skinny jeans. Yeah, I could never wear those, unfortunately. Yup, the monster, bro. Flat brims. Yellow, black and yellow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what a
bread,
time.
in tandem with the production of too many ridiculous caps to count. This entire trend produced some of the most bizarre and iconic fits of the 21st century. Zendaya had some absolutely diabolical drip, and Justin Bieber was straight up malicious. Halfway through the decade, swag started to slow down, and massive Obey caps became less and less desirable. The word itself evolved to become more ironic.
I say, the crazy shit you see now, bro, you be seeing 30-year-olds still dressing like this, bro.
Caps
They
became
still be
less
dressing
and
with
less
this, bro.
desirable. The word itself evolved to become more ironic, and was largely replaced by words like drip among younger generations.
Yeah, drippers round, baby.
By
iTunes.
2013, the use of what is now known as Frutiger Metro had largely vanished. For a time after its decline, a similar
Mike, what
aesthetic
the fuck
became
is
more
that?
popular in corporate design. This is referred to as Frutiger Metro. You might have seen it on your Xbox
I hate that design.
360, CDs, or textbooks. At the time, this style marked the beginning of more flat and minimalist approaches to UI. After all, it gets its name from the Metro design language created by Microsoft. This emphasized simple
Really?
geometric patterns and shapes, absent of the glossy 3D look of the past. Windows 8 is a prime example
I prefer
of
the
this,
3D
with
look
its
of the
colourful
past.
selection of tiles and icons. The aesthetic is also known as flat Frutiger Metro, as it shares a lot of the same imagery, but without the depth and glossiness. When looking at these designs, you'll notice the prevalence of speakers, dancing silhouettes, and swirls of colour. It was pretty much the stock
Yeah, I'm not a fan, bro. I like the older shit.
choice for making a product appear more interesting than it actually was. By slapping it on a CD or a poster, you could quickly add some vibrancy and energy. Much like Vaporwave, even it can be divided into smaller, equally recognizable categories.
definitely can.
For example, Funky Metro, centered around instruments, DJs, and dancing, is a lot different to grungy
About to say, that just tells me iPhone covers, and then, or like iPhone, like iTunes art.
Metro, which relates
And
to
then this
scene
was,
and
oh
darker
my
colours.
gosh. I feel like I've seen this everywhere.
Outside of its classifications, you could spot Frutiger Metro in a bunch of advertisements. This one
Oh,
for
yeah.
Nickelodeon is an interesting example, showing Jack Black amidst bright splashes of colour. Going as far back as 2004, we can find some of its earlier appearances, like the ad shown here. You'll notice that, much like Frutiger Metro, nature still played a big role in these designs. When shown alongside technology, this was likely done to help it appear less intimidating and more accessible. By animating things like plants and dolphins, devices could feel less alien and more familiar.
Oh no.
The use of this style today has been overwhelmingly shelved in favour of minimalism, meaning it kind of served as a transitional period between the maximalist aesthetics of the 2000s and the
I like the big, like, I liked the big aesthetics of the 2000s. I liked that more. I like what we have now, where it's like very minimalistic. But that in-between shit, wasn't really a fan of that. But this, I liked this, man.
flat designs of today.
It had character, personality.
Looking at other videos we've done on this channel on the 90s and the 2000s, you can make out clear, long-lasting and distinct aesthetic styles. A lot of these were used by corporations to make technology appear advanced and exciting.
Yeah, like this is nice. I wasn't really around for this part. I was definitely more towards the end when it was kind of going out of style. But, like the RoboDog, I remember that. I had that. I had one of these phones at one point. DS, I had a DS. Game Boy, I had a Game Boy. I used to love my Game Boy. PS1, I had one, but not really.
Hinged on an
More of a
almost
PS2 kid.
fantastical anticipation for the future.
Dude, the Razor scooter, oh my gosh.
By the 2010s, this future was well underway, and with it, the internet. If you weren't logged in at the start of the decade, you definitely were before the end, and I know this because you're watching this video. The number of people who are online
True.
more than doubled from 2010 to 2020, meaning that people's experiences of the world were increasingly informed by things on the internet. And so the reason the 2010s looked like that is you. User-driven media.
It's like the best. It really is. It's the best. And I'll never get it back. Man. I'd appreciate. I mean, they come back in style though. You know what I'm saying? Fashion, you know, is a circle.
Media like YouTube videos, vines, flash games, and memes sculpted millions of people's lives even outside of the internet. Simultaneously, this media started to become people's lives. Making videos with a shitty webcam was suddenly profitable, and the creation of content was something anyone could do. So while some of it may be cringe now, all of it played a role in creating what many consider to be the golden age of the internet.
It really was a golden age. Now, I feel like the internet is dead, bro. The dead internet theory is real. The internet's dead. What are we gonna do? Dude, this was such a good video, though. I'm gonna subscribe. I'm gonna put the link in chat for y'all. Just in case, you know what I'm saying? People who have never heard of it. There's no way there's people that have never heard of it. Maybe there is, though. I mean, I guess, because there's kids that are born in, like, 2015, 2014 that are, like, 10 now. And when I was 10, I was on the internet and shit, and they weren't around for this. Oh, my gosh. Wow. I think I've seen this video before. That was a great video, not gonna lie. Kind of made me sad. Made me a bit nostalgic. Made me a bit bittersweet. You know what I'm saying?